What is going on, football fans? Back at it with another New York Giants video. And in this video, I'm going to talk about what I thought was a very interesting article written by NJ.com, as they got some very telling quotes out of the cornerback from Arizona, Patrick Peterson, in regards to Daniel Jones. Now, Daniel Jones, of course, the last few weeks, you can blame it on whatever you want. You can blame it on Pat Shermer. You can blame it on Daniel Jones. You can blame it on the offensive line. Whatever it is, this offense has not done nearly as well as it did early on in Daniel Jones' debut start with the Tampa Bay Bucs, specifically in that second half. Jones has certainly displayed the ability to make some tight window throws against the Patriots again yesterday. There were a lot of drops, I believe 5. And as a matter of fact, PFF came out and said that Daniel Jones had his highest graded game since being a New York Giant yesterday, which I find hard to believe, but it is what it is. I'm not going to say he didn't do anything good. He did. He definitely did some things well. And I thought the Pack came out with a horrible game plan, especially with the weather conditions. They should have run the football more. Now, I recognize that Saquon Barkley may be on a pitch count, being that he's coming back from a serious injury. But then you put Wayne Gallman in there, put Buck Allen in there. They needed to run the ball more than they did. So I thought that was a mistake. And I think that's the first thing that will help Daniel Jones, an effective ground game. But what Patrick Peterson came out and said was that he found, well, not him, the Cardinals found Daniel Jones's kryptonite, right? Which, he thinks they found the secret ingredient on how to beat him. And he said it was a hard shell cover 2 defense. I'll get to the quote in a second. Now, the Cardinals picked that up on tape from the New England Patriots game. And make no mistakes about it, there's going to be a lot of teams that watch Arizona's tape and continue to try to do the same thing. So the question is, what could Pat Shermer and Daniel Jones do to improve on this, right? And it wasn't just a problem in the Patriot game. Even early on against the Bucs, he made a couple of throws where he didn't see the safety, and I've said that in a number of videos. And that's exactly what a cover 2 defense is. I'm going to show you guys the diagram for those of you that do not know what a cover 2 is. But first, let's get to the quotes. There's Patrick Peterson. Here's the quote. We saw that he has some trouble with that 2-shell coverage. And when he says 2-shell, he's talking about a variation of the cover 2 defense against New England. Peterson told the NFL Network's Kim Jones after the game, and we tried to not resemble the same game plan, but give him some of those same looks because he had trouble with it 10 days ago. Obviously talking about the New England Patriots game. The Cardinals harassed Jones with the combination of 2 deep shell coverage and stunts from the front 7 that produced 8 sacks, an interception, and 3 fumbles, with 2 recovered by the Cardinals. Just close the windows, the middle of the field, and give him some confusing looks, Peterson said. Over the past 2 games, Jones has thrown 4 interceptions against the Patriots and the Cardinals. So, there you have it. And I'm going to talk about how I think the best way to beat a cover 2 defense is. But before I get into that, I wanted to show you guys a diagram of exactly what a cover 2 defense is. So there's 2 different variations, right? But it's basically the same. This isn't a 4-3 defense, 3-4 defense. It's the same thing. The D linemen, they play their role, right? They try to get after the quarterback. They try to stuff the run. The linebackers stay out in coverage. The cornerbacks are in a zone approach where they cover, from the line of scrimmage to about 10 yards back on curl patterns. And then they let the receivers be released. And the safeties, which is why it's called a cover 2 deep safeties, have to cover the deeper routes. And a lot of times when you run a cover 2, first off, is a very good defense, specifically against a Pat Shermer-led offense, a West Coast offense. It's kind of why it was established, because the West Coast offense by Walsh came into the NFL, and what that is about is all quick throws, play action rollouts, getting throws, quick 5-yard routes. That's what that's about. And a lot of Pat Shermer's system is about that. So if I was a defensive coordinator, that's what I would run as well. And that's what the Cardinals did. But Jones has been getting confused in coverage. He doesn't see the safety. I've seen it several times, not just with interceptions, even balls that could have easily been intercepted. So first off, a ground game is going to help Daniel Jones. We got to get the ground game established, and we got to run it as much as we can. But when Daniel Jones does throw the football, and when he is forced to throw against this coverage, what is the best recipe against it? Well, I think you need to have a more spread out offense. I think that you need to run receivers deep down the field, committing those safeties to the edges, and opening up the middle for Evan Ingram and guys up the seam. That is the biggest weakness, in my opinion, to a cover 2 defense, because the safeties are the only guys out there on the edge. You got the cornerbacks playing the zone. It's going to open up the middle on one-on-one coverage with a linebacker on Evan Ingram or Saquon Barkley. Use him as a wide receiver. There are ways to break a cover 2. They also need to motion Daniel Jones out a lot more than they have. A play action rollout, things of that nature, because teams are going to continue to blitz the Giants at the rate that they have. And the Cardinals, were able to blend both the blitz and strong coverage to give him looks that definitely confused him. And I expect the same thing to happen against the Detroit Lions. So the Giants will have to find ways to maneuver around this. Like I said, the best recipe for this is going to be the ground game. But expect defenses to continue to come with that cover 2 press and continue to blitz Jones as much as possible. And Evan Ingram will play a vital part. And there were times last game where there were drops, right? Evan Ingram's a prime example where he beat the cover 2, right? It was down the sideline, about 30 yards down the field, 30 or 40 yards. The corner stays in, right? And the safety had to guard him on the deep right corner, and Ingram beat him to the spot. He just couldn't catch it. So the way to beat a cover 2 is up the middle and deep patterns on the sidelines. They're going to take away those short patterns, and I expect them to continue to try to do that, and it will not be improved until they can establish that ground game. So we'll have to wait and see how it all plays out. But Jones is going to have to attack the middle of the field, which is what I think we all thought he needed to do to begin with at the start of the year. Evan Ingram is a vital piece to this passing game. But we'll just have to wait and see how it all plays out. As always, if you liked what you watched, please subscribe, drop a comment, maybe give me a little thumbs up. Cheers.